Oh boy, this is Pixar's Terrible Lightyear. For me, it's kind of been weird that the 2020s in general have been seen as a low in Pixar movies. Really, it's more how Disney's treated Pixar movies than the movies themselves. But with the likes of Elemental, Turning Red, Luca, and Inside Out 2, it's been a pretty good turnout. I personally have my issues with Soul, but that was generally well received. But of course, Inside Out 2 being the exception, the low point image is coming from the infamous sidelining of Pixar originals on Disney+. To the extent that Elemental's struggle at the box office is attributed largely to changing audience expectations to, I go to Disney+ for these movies now. However, before Elemental ultimately profited and then Inside Out 2 blew Pixar back into business, we had one big step missing in this story. And that is a Toy Story movie that managed to fail in terms of box office, critical reception, and just outright even communicating what the movie was. Enter 2022's Lightyear. The movie whose biggest crime is not actually the movie itself. No, it's the fact that it likely is the reason behind us having no access to Buzz Lightyear of Star Command content. You know, the original Buzz Lightyear movie that they wanted you to forget about, and its 65-episode TV series. Complete with an easy-to-follow lore that everybody was on board with, vibrant and colorful art design that matched the look of Buzz in the main movies, and a pre-movie intro that had the Toy Story cast sitting down to watch it that clearly established where it sat in the wider Toyverse. But no, that was too much fun for a Buzz Lightyear movie. Why don't we make a family-friendly version of Interstellar instead, that bizarrely descends into ripping off the Lego 2, the second part, everyone's favorite. But come on. This is canonically the movie that Andy saw that the toy was attached to. Shouldn't we have some sort of fun pre-scene with the Toy Story characters going with Andy to see the movie or something? We can even have a bit of that at the start of the trailers so the audience understands how this all fits together. But no, don't worry about that. We can just explain that with some black and white text at the beginning. As we'll soon learn, Andy didn't have great taste in movies. From the very get-go, in record time, you have the conceptual issue in writing. You have two clashing ideas. There's wanting to make the movie that Buzz Lightyear was attached to, that an 8-year-old boy would have loved, and then there's Pixar wanting to add emotional depth through the incoming time traveler's best friend plotline, with a nice chunk of generic Disney ensemble characters chucked in later. See also Moana 2.
Buzz Lightyear mission log, stardate 3901.
And honestly, the opening had me thinking that the Interstellar angle on the movie was gonna work. It's definitely the best part of the movie. In fact, it feels like they blew all the best ideas in this first part of the movie, and just kinda had to carry on with the rest of it.
Terrain seems a bit unstable.
Blending the known Buzz tropes, imagery, and quotes with stunning visuals and subsequently emotionally led science fiction ideas. They showed this opening 15 minutes at CinemaCon earlier that year, and folks from the industry initially thought that this was gonna be Pixar's next masterpiece. We start off with a great action sequence of Buzz and his friend, who's about to be gone away Hawthorne, exploring an uncharted planet. It's a solid opening action sequence that seems to harken back to the start of an Indiana Jones in some way. And it's a shame we lose Hawthorne Sr. after this, because her and Buzz genuinely do have some good chemistry here. And initially, I don't even mind the Chris Evans version of Buzz either. It does seem to be a humanized version of the character we know. Although, even here, I do wonder if bringing Tim Allen back for this would have just made the transition less jarring. Like, instead of being a close but different version of the character, there would be more buy-in to it being the same character. You know, some authentic connections to the other movies. Because as much as they initially do sell the Buzz tropes, those slowly slip away, and we gradually head towards a character who only really shares a name with a known IP, as opposed to really being that character. However, as we'll see a few times throughout the movie, there are some characteristics that align with the TV series version of Buzz.
Commander Hawthorne, you know how I feel about rookies.
Abrupt insert of a trail for later in the movie aside, this is an interesting way to go, as it's not necessarily something we recognize from the toy version of the character. And contextually, this might be the only franchise where that's actually a legit critique. The I work alone mindset is very much a product of Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and it seems weird to borrow from that whilst also completely denying the series ever existed. But yes, whilst the strongest part, there's still symptoms of what's to come.
I'm better off just doing the job myself.
Just stating a character mindset 5 minutes in, are we? And what's clear from the off is that this version of Buzz just isn't as funny. Like, at his best, Buzz Lightyear is both a cool character, but also a funny character. Yes, you can see the potential is there.
You and you alone will do one thing above all. Whatever the galaxy may throw your way, will you please turn that off?
Because you still have the humor coming from him taking himself too seriously. You still have non-self-aware corniness of the character in this version, particularly here, and just maybe having Tim Allen back would have accentuated that better. There's another sin in this movie, creating a scenario where Tim Allen of all people would have been both an actual box office boost and a better creative choice for the movie. Not even joking. However, a creative choice I do like is this movie's approach to alien life. That being the vine creatures. Considering that a lot of theories suggest that most life on other worlds probably wouldn't be advanced beyond microbes, fungi, or plant life, it's kind of surprising that Lightyear seems to be the first one to majorly dabble with that. Of course, not all worlds have developed life in the same mammal-centric way that we have. I mean, I ultimately preferred how they worked the Toy Story aliens into the lore of the TV show, allowing more iconography from the main franchise into the world back there. However, the Lilo & Stitch remake has me left thinking how they could have come across something as weird as photorealistic Pleakley in this movie. But no, we'll just take some vines and bugs instead.
Okay, plan B.
And what can I say? The action's pretty great. It almost gets to that feel of the Toy Story 2 opening that I was hoping we'd get from this movie. Just for the record though, the Toy Story 2 opening is still better than this entire movie. And I know they go somewhere very different with Zurg in this movie. However, I do wonder if the incoming stranded time travel plot would have had an extra kick to it if we had Buzz and crew having a direct face-off with Zurg as his own galaxy-conquering entity, which then stands them onto this planet. You'd go from some expected Buzz Lightyear scenario before going into this deeper narrative. That's my pitch anyway. Beyond all sorts of aesthetic changes. Also just saying, we have another case here of the young rookie clearly being a problem, but for some reason Buzz is still portrayed as the one in the wrong, which soon becomes his story arc for the entire movie. God, we've still got all that to sit through, haven't we? To be fair, he does then crash the whole thing, so he's not entirely blameless.
I'm Buzz Lightyear. I'm always sure.
You sure about that?
Proceeds to strand entire society of people on dangerous planet. Nice one, buddy.
Our hyperspeed crystal was totally destroyed.
Establishing that they are stuck there. 1W here is Buzz accepting full accountability for it. Whilst this was a pretty big demonstration of his flaws, his response speaks to the good-hearted character that he ultimately is.
Who in their right mind would...
Which then sends us onto a pretty cool time-lapse of the crew working around their new reality across a year.
Our first hyperspeed test flight is a go.
Where we also see how they've adapted to the vines and bugs situation. Though I don't get why the bugs don't just fly over those fences.
To infinity?
And beyond.
Anyway, this is where we get into the meat of the movie. The premise that really took it in a bold direction.
Hyperspeed, here I come.
And then it just doesn't really know what to do with itself afterwards. But hey, let's just appreciate what this could have been.
60% hyperspeed.
With the hyperspeed sequence itself, it's pretty stunning. Not only are the visuals surrounding the ship immense, but there's intensity to the force pushing against the ship and Buzz himself. You understand the weight of this whole maneuver because you can see the force of it on screen. As science fiction sequences go, this is a really solid one, and would have probably reached iconic status if it was in a better movie. As the ship blazes round the sun against the flares, there's a real visceral energy that the rest of the movie just doesn't have. But it's once Buzz manages to course correct and lands that the real potential of this movie displays itself.
How long was I gone?
4 years, 2 months, and 3 days.
And yes, I'm pretty sure the shape of the building behind Buzz is a Space Mountain homage. And as legitimate a criticism as it may be that this plot is a bit complicated for younger viewers in particular, I'd wager that they lay out the science surprisingly clearly and it's relatively easy to follow, all things considered.
Simply put, the faster I fly, the further into the future I travel.
One of the few times that some straight exposition is actually necessary. Sometimes you really do just need a robot with a whiteboard. What's also established so well here is Buzz's sense of responsibility to everyone.
Everyone's just stuck here because of me.
As he ultimately chooses to carry on losing years with everyone else, these actions are as informative of his character as they are in escalating the story.
Oh, I got engaged.
Oh, wow.
Again, you can see why people thought this movie was heading for greatness, because the stuff they deal with here borders on that opening of Up in its emotional themes as well as its ultimate outcome. And skipping through time to see someone's entire life, done actually literally rather than just montaging, kind of covers that bill quite closely. And even with that messy ending, the themes they deal with begin on strong foundations here.
It's funny, I never would have met her if we hadn't been stranded.
It's like Pixar had a really great idea for a science fiction movie and used Buzz as the vessel. Before things get super emotional though, we do have our first introduction to Socks.
I was issued by Star Command to ease your emotional transition after your time away.
It's Disney, you need a cute side character. And you know what? He's fine. I'm indifferent, but not annoyed. And it's interesting that they did go for an original character over maybe incorporating a Toy Story character in his spot. I think I would have preferred that in a way. Ironically, he does sound awfully close to Tom Hanks under his little filter, so I was at first thinking it might have been an extra sort of background reference there, but no, whatever, he's fine. And the white noise gag is pretty funny. As Buzz goes on for another round, our sequence of time passing kicks off with a "they said the thing"
To infinity?
And beyond.
And I can at least see what they're going for in adding that personal angle of their friendship to this phrase that we're now very familiar with. After all, it's what defines Buzz and Woody's relationship. But at the same time, it's like, that's their thing. Nonetheless, as we get into the sequence, it's the wordless windows into Hawthorne's life passing as Buzz floats through that are as touching as you'd expect. And I say window because it's almost like Buzz peers through the next window of her life every time he returns. It's not something you expect this movie to do on the first watch, and whilst it doesn't quite get to the heights of that opening of Up per se, you've got to give it its flowers of at least doing something of quality. And I can't say that about a lot of the movie, let me tell you. Even just the slight change in Buzz's facial expression at the sight of Hawthorne's grey hairs says a lot with very little. It's a glimmer of the Pixar we know. Until...
I seem to have gone and gotten very old.
It's as sad a moment in the narrative as it is seeing the potential of what they had here. If the rest of the movie around this sequence could have been this good, wow, it's another Oscar for Pixar.
I miss being out among the stars.
It's one hell of a story to build on, but they just don't really build on it from here on out. We have the granddaughter and her whole thing on the way, but it just doesn't carry the emotional precedent of this scene. I'm not saying I wanted a weighted Buzz Lightyear movie, I want a fun one, but I'm just not sure if we really end up with either beyond this point. Buzz then learns that the plan is now to stay on the world.
That was the last mission, Buzz. What?
Which is particularly brutal when you realize they shut it down right after his best friend died. They just went, now that you've missed out on your friend's entire life, we've decided to stop. I mean, that's harsh.
I figured out the fuel problem.
What?
I also appreciate Socks is actually a functional side character, unlike some others that we're about to meet. Like, he's essential to the plot.
We have to decommission your cat.
It'll just take a second.
It does make you wonder if he'd let them do it if Socks didn't have the calculations. Also, I love that from the security's perspective, Buzz just smashed out a window for a robot cat.
I bought you 5 minutes.
And of course, they can't master the formula without breaking the laptop it's on.
The formula!
Always the way in these generic stories. But there is this moment.
He overrode my override.
Ow! Beep boop, beep boop, beep boop, beep boop.
And so with another spectacular sequence of Buzz with the working formula in a sequence directly out of A Space Odyssey,
100% hyperspeed.
we blast straight into the rest of the movie based in the Yawn Fest quadrant. I mean, we get an epic introduction to Zurg that is completely unenjoyable on the rewatch.
Where's the pilot?
Meanwhile, it turns out this time Buzz has been gone.
How long were we gone?
Meow, 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 meow. 22 years.
And I'm going to stop it right there for a second and say, something I really wish they could have done another pitch. I remember thinking when I first saw this movie, is not that Zurg is an external character villain that we see later on, but the idea that the security themselves, the humans, end up becoming Zurg-like over time, as we see time has progressed and security is getting more robotic and, you know, beefy over time. It very much felt like it could have been revealed that it's them becoming Zurg in some form or building the technology of Zurg via these next 22 years. Technically, I guess it is future technology that builds Zurg, but it's not them, and it just... a missed opportunity on the side. Alas, we meet Hawthorne's grown granddaughter Izzy, which seems fun enough, you know, teaming up with a granddaughter, lots of emotional potential there about making back the years he lost with Hawthorne Sr., but then...
And I have a team.
Yeah, it's time to meet the filler characters. The Moana 2 ragtag crew of the one-dimensional are all here to fill out the back and forth dialogue and annoy Buzz. Which once again reminds me that there isn't a great deal of the Buzz character we know here. The lines are in there, but they hit a bit different when my ship is actually his ship being stolen, as opposed to the box he came in having a broken cardboard wing. But more fundamentally, these side characters essentially put him in the Woody position, with the side characters doing a less effective job to what he was to Woody. Except of course he's not the same Buzz as the individual toy in those other movies, but then if that's the case, what was the point in putting him in a spin-off where he's not the same? But then, like, you see the issue we have here? It's just, We're also swiftly introduced to some very lazy video game logic here that we've seen done to death.
Sensors have indicated that the Zerg ship powers the robots on the ground.
Or, sensors have indicated a significant bit of plot that feels far too easy for them to have learned, while setting up a resolution that also feels far too easy. It's straight out of the Marvel playbook, as is a lot of the dialogue.
Do you hear that?
I hear something.
Nah, we've never seen a robot this far from the base.
They even have Taika Waititi in there, basically playing himself.
Sorry, I'm not trained with this weapon.
It's just all taken from one Disney house to another. Because yes, we discovered that this is the untrained to be funny, but actually kind of annoying patrol. Or as they've called it to bleed into Buzz's rookie arc from earlier, the Junior Patrol.
The Junior what?
We're the Junior Patrol, at your service.
And I swear Moana 2 just copied this movie for some reason. You have the destructive female, the hapless male character, and then the pensioner. It's literally the same set of characters.
So you're rookies.
We'd love to be rookies. Still building up to that.
There we go. Got it in. Character arc. Like here, he just doesn't get on with less experienced people than him. In the OG Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, he lost his partner in the opening scene, which gave a clear reason for why he didn't want to put any less experienced partners in danger. There's a sense of heroism in his standings, rather than just being a little bit uptight. It's like they've taken vague ideas from this one, but none of the best stuff. Just lots of moping about doing stuff alone.
I'll have to destroy a massive alien ship alone, with no assistance of any kind.
For the next while, we have the gang, as I'll resentfully call them, traveling around having marvelly banter to annoy Buzz, and Buzz trying to get rid of them. Starting here, but at least we get Buzz back in his suit. With the whole looking like its own movie that has nothing to do with Toy Story thing going on, I almost forgot that this was a Buzz Lightyear movie until I saw the design. But not to worry about that moment, the others soon turn up to make it a whole lot worse. In this case, a car alarm waking up a bunch of bugs. With Mr. Waititi here echoing my sentiments about this part of the movie.
I'm gonna be blunt here. I wish that hadn't happened.
Just a nice mid-section of a team repeatedly making annoying mistakes for Buzz to get annoyed at. Haha! Comedy!
That's the surrender string. You never pull that.
And yes, we get thrown right into a situation where the gang get to put the suits on too. Of course. And you'll never guess what, Buzz yet again goes about his plan fine until...
You can't see me.
Hey there, yes, you've made it halfway through this video, so come subscribe since you're clearly invested. We've got all sorts of other Pixar movies we of course cover. We'll have a playlist link down below, so check those out if you haven't already. Come join if you're not subscribed, and let's get back to the second half of Pixar's Terrible Lightyear.
You can't see me.
Wait, I can see you.
To be fair, he didn't say about the timer here. But it just seems here we have a series of plan starts fine, something with the side characters goes wrong. It's like the same formula on repeat until the finale, where all the traits suddenly become useful. And if there weren't enough character goofs...
What is happening right now?
She's afraid of space.
What? She should be.
Sure, give her the old Dory special, quirky character flaw, sorted. I will credit it though for a trait that does speak to how long this civilization has been on this planet now. There are now 2 generations on this planet who have never actually been to space. But also at this point, I'm pretty sure the Buzzisms in Chris Evans' voice is just kind of gone. It's just the Captain America voice now.
Sox, give me a damage report.
One moment, please.
There's more back and forth of them annoying Buzz, whilst also attempting to slip convenient things for them to be good at under some more loose dialogue so that they still sound stupid.
The armadillo will require a material of specialized capacitance.
Like an electrical thingy.
Yeah, that's how you do it. Just add Thingy in and he could still be the dumb character. Also, I just want to highlight that I have him noted down as Taika in this script. I genuinely don't know what this character's called. The design even looks like Taika, which harkens back to Tom Holland in Onwards. That's just how Pixar likes their Marvel actors, apparently. Practically unchanged in animation, too. I think, again, one of the many issues with this dynamic between the crew and Buzz is that Buzz has to be the straight-laced, competent one, with those earlier toes of the character we know and love not really there. I just feel like, just because this isn't the toy Buzz, doesn't mean they can't share character traits. It harkens back to the criticism a lot of people made that often this is just a guy who shares a name and suit with Buzz. And you know which movie didn't make that mistake? Yeah, I'm talking about the damn cartoon again. Because whilst now in the Space Ranger context with its own lore, that was still very much the Buzz Lightyear character from the main movies. And you can't totally credit Tim Allen for that because whilst he voiced Buzz for the feature-length video release, we had Patrick Warburton voicing Buzz for the TV episodes. And yet, when you watch them back, that is still very much Buzz Lightyear. You could still have him in the leadership position with troublesome side characters whilst not compromising his own character in the first place. But yes, maybe in this case they should have had Tim Allen for the movie. I'll say it again. I liked Chris Evans at the start, but he's kind of lost the buzz for Buzz now. And it doesn't help that a lot of his dialogue sounds more like Woody in the first movie, if anything.
Or look, there's no one trying to think over there.
Half his dialogue once these guys are in the movie is just him moaning at how annoying they're being. And he has a point. It really gets tiring when that's the bulk of your second act. I think another thing from the series that's missing is the galactic in Galactic Alliance. In this movie, that mixed species Star Trek vibe of Star Command is foregone for a completely human colony on a planet that's only got bugs. Which is a shame because that was another thing that made the series' character dynamic interesting. I mean, judging by the alien designs in Elio, maybe that's for the best, but still. Now it's mine time, which also means it's time for a reference.
A capture cone that holds you until they come and get you.
Honestly, didn't expect the traffic cones from Toy Story 2 to be one of the few references of choice, but here we are. Leading to the very first we need to work together moment.
You don't need to save us. You need to join us.
Aw, ain't that cute. Again, Buzz losing his partner at the start of the TV movie, causing his reluctance to work with a team, seemed to be a much more stronger foundation than here, where he just says he finds rookies annoying in the first few minutes. For a movie that centers around him, we never really get into why he's so anti-team player, which just feels like a missed opportunity. In fact, I think missed opportunity is just this movie's subheading. If you still had a real emotional reason behind his reluctance towards a team, then maybe we'd buy into that motivation more. Anyway, they work together, Buzz nearly falls to his death and gets a heavy dose of look, we're a team.
We got you.
See, they're helpful now. Cue the reverse sandwich bit, which seemed to get more attention than the rest of the movie at the time.
Why's the meat on the outside?
I'm sure you can find plenty of YouTube videos on making that one if you really need instructions for stacking ingredients. Meanwhile, Buzz gives Taika some notes on his recent movie efforts.
Just, try to be a little better.
And we get just a little I failed everyone moment from him just to give a semblance of depth. We also get a little bit about Buzz's time at the Academy, followed by emotional ghost granny scene. And for a moment, the movie actually remembers its emotional potential.
She didn't mean to be here, but she had a whole life on this planet, Buzz.
This is one of those moments that really hits on an emotional truth. While Buzz was off trying to get them all home, everyone else just built a new one. It speaks to how sometimes you can mistake the now as working towards your life, forgetting that now is your life. And while Buzz still has a life he can live, as this has just been a few days for him, he missed out on his best friend's entire life. The potential! There's some great emotional beats around some of the themes dug inside of this movie. It's just the movie that they ended up actually putting it around that's the issue. Because then we're right back to the same old tired, I'm doing this alone routine.
What, are you gonna do the whole mission alone?
I can do it.
Followed by an equally formulaic moment to really blow your socks off.
Let's just try to get back to the armadillo without any more trouble.
What a stroll down cliche town this is turning out to be. It's Zurg time. Not evil Emperor Zurg, just Mecha Zurg. I mean, Mecha Zurg is pretty cool and comes across as an intimidating force to be reckoned with, and then the twist happens, and oh dear. But for now, here's a big old charisma-absent cyborg, as best summarized by this line.
I'm being pursued by just a massive robot.
And I don't know about you, but I was hoping for a bit more than just a massive robot for the big villain, you know? I know there wasn't exactly a lot to work with from the Toy Story 2 version. But again, it's Buzz Lightyear of Star Command for here, where they gave us a seemingly impossible marriage of Darth Vader and the Joker with that version, and it really worked. Voiced by Wayne Knight, by the way, who also voices Al in Toy Story 2. I think I just need to watch that movie again. If I could, anyway, because you're not going to find it on Disney+.
Come with me.
What?
I mean, the toy versions of these two do not hold up, do they? Why do they give this big robot a cape? It doesn't help that all the merch for this movie looks like this version of Buzz as well. In upgrading Buzz's look in this movie, they somehow made the coolest toy of the 90s look lame. Explain there. The desaturated look of this movie is also just another letdown. With a concept of a Buzz Lightyear movie, you'd think of the vibrant colors on all the merchandise in Andy's room, the Buzz Lightyear ride at Disneyland. And add on the fact that this is meant to be a movie that Andy saw in the 90s, you could really lean into some sort of VHS aesthetic, you know, make it all stylized and old-fashioned, colorful and vibrant, but instead of the colorful space opera that could have been, we have this kind of modern MCU tint to the visuals. In many ways, this sometimes does just feel like Marvel Studios Lightyear, if anything. But thankfully, a face-off with Zurg has turned Buzz's arc around.
What, am I gonna do the whole mission alone?
There we are, arc resolved. Leading to a family-friendly weapon sequence, seems as we're dealing with robots here.
Now that's satisfying.
Now, I have to hand it to him here. This is at least a pretty solid action sequence that they have going on. I mean, this is still the studio that gave us The Incredibles, so I'd expect nothing less. It's the closest we've gotten to Pixar getting to Star Wars at the very least. That's a point. I'm surprised they haven't given Pixar an episode of Star Wars Visions yet. I'd be interested in that. We even get a shot of Buzz using his laser. Wow, I completely forgot that that was a well-known thing for his character. I've been analyzing this movie for so long. Wait, wasn't Buzz even better known for having wings in his suit? Yeah, don't worry about that. We'll barely see those. Anyway, the action sequence concludes as the team makes another dumb goof and Buzz loses his special lightspeed crystal. Time for him to hit out at Junior.
I just need to be by myself.
Tough luck, buddy. Big hand grabber coming at you. I guess that's a claw reference, loosely? Here we do briefly get back to the potential we saw in that opening of Toy Story 2 with some one-on-one action. But it doesn't last long, like less than a minute. And now it's Lego Movie 2 did it first time.
You look good, Buzz.
They even have a poke at the Toy Story 2 version.
Dad? Guess again.
Followed by the voice of every child watching.
I don't understand.
Honestly, aside from Lego Movie having first dibs on this exact plotline, right down to old Buzz's ultimate decision, I don't hate this as a concept. This isn't even the first time we've had old Buzz either. That's right, of course, Buzz Light of Star Command did this concept first as well. It's not exactly the same story, but one episode of the show does involve old Buzz as a character going back in time. This is what I mean. They took all these ideas for the series and then buried the evidence by blocking us from rewatching it. Is that the conspiracy? But for the context of the movie, I get it. It thematically fits with how we started, follows what Buzz has been doing and what his outlook has been in completing the mission and missing what's important. It fits, and the reveal that this version of Buzz got there first, only to be put under arrest by the commander, was a pretty interesting development. The fact that he stole this technology from the far future could even indicate that he took it from the real Zurg, if you like, but then, in that sense, I'd rather we saw the real Zurg.
But I'm you 50 years from now.
However, that's just it. What I think lost a lot of people was using Zurg as a vessel for this concept rather than old Buzz as a concept. If old Buzz was his own entity and Zurg was a separate party, maybe even teaming up, perhaps audiences would have been less frazzled here. But spinning the promise of evil Emperor Zurg to reveal that it's just elderly Buzz Lightyear in an Iron Man suit really just doesn't cut the mustard. You can see why there was some disappointment here, and it's so much missed potential through so many layers. And as for the explanation for the really cool villain name, well...
Robots can't quite say Buzz, so around here I'm Zurg.
Ah, okay. Again, feels like another undercutting Marvel moment to me, like the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3. And if that wasn't good enough, we've also got yet another I've messed it all up scene.
I messed this all up.
There's no point even rattling through every movie with this moment. I'm pretty sure every terrible movie I've done recently has this exact beat in the third act. Even some of the amazing ones have it. How to Train Your Dragon has it, for God's sake. The character has a big moment of self-doubt in the face of their mistakes. They say, I messed it all up, before finding the motivation to push on with a plan. Meanwhile, Buzz is initially on board with the plan as they stand around what seems like a reference to the TARDIS from Doctor Who. I guess it makes sense with the whole time travel thing. I'm presuming this whole movie is just littered in sci-fi references, though I appreciate for once that this isn't so on the nose. Where Buzz finally comes across the message of the movie.
She won't have her family. She won't have Izzy.
Who's Izzy?
which is actually great in illustrating the difference between their lived experience. This Buzz never met Izzy and hasn't had the journey in realizing the importance of the life Hawthorne did live. It's great territory for storytelling, but the letdown with Zurg just kind of overshadowed it. And it just feels like this is overall a mid-movie with 3 to 4 solid scenes. Meanwhile, Hawthorne Jr. gets her mojo back and briefly reminds us of the fears she had for one scene earlier.
We're going to space.
And now they're all on the ship. Yay! Time for the climactic battle sequence, preceded by the battle cry of the over 70s if I ever heard one.
All these new ideas.
Followed by Terminator Socks to the rescue. Thankfully, that means he's less cute, so it's less sad when he dies.
Come on.
Oh man, Traitor feels like a throwback to before the Star Wars sequel took a nosedive and everyone liked that one stormtrooper in Force Awakens. But that's enough memes from 10 years ago.
Tell that to Kanja Club.
And again, there's some decent action going on here. It's a fine climax sequence. The 2 annoying comic relief characters have a little inquest written in for them to be doing something. It's all fun and games here. And of course, Izzy is boxed into facing her fear of space, where we do get a reminder that they have actually made us care about Socks as he nearly George Clooney'd into the depths of space. One of the most existentially terrifying slow deaths you could have, really. Getting there just in time to save Buzz from an old man in a robot, which feels far less threatening knowing that context, with some generic lines thrown in.
There's no time. We'll never make it.
Oh, yes, we will.
Is it just me, or do the cliches seem to come in pairs whenever they turn up? Like, where was the Pixar's writing room on this movie? Stuff like this usually gets ironed out, you know? Like, just in the nick of time, countdown to explosion sequences.
5,
Let's go.
4,
But to be fair, they do actually do something different with that. Buzz doesn't get out in time. But it's fine because neither of the ships managed to blow up with the big ship, despite being in that ship. Whatever, him climbing into the ship from space was pretty cool. Less convincing is the ship already going really fast when Zurg manages to catch it. It's all good, it's all in service of this moment happening.
Not today, Zurg.
Yes, he's got his wings now, and he's chucked in that quote. And we finally get some of the Buzz Lightyear action from the other movies that the promise of this movie had. For this one bit, anyway. They land safely and prepare themselves for the conclusion of the movie with some soppy words in hand.
For the first time in a long time, I feel like I am home.
And luckily for him, the commander has had a change of heart.
We want you to start a new version of the Space Ranger Corps.
Quite funny thinking this may have been what they were going to offer old Buzz before he flew off. Speaking of flying off as we get into the close of the movie, now everybody has wings. The full Red Bull special. And a more colourful scheme to boot as well. Where was that until now? And a ship that looks like a box in the original movie. Do ya get it? Ha!
Buzz Lightyear mission log. Stardate 4071.
I guess it's been 148 days, with the closing shot being the point we probably would have actually wanted the movie to begin from, but hey ho. And that is Pixar's Terrible Lightyear. Well, except for the post-credit of Zurg that will never go anywhere. And overall, I can see there was a good idea here. A Pixar science fiction epic with a genuinely emotionally engaging concept at its center. But was that really something to throw Buzz Lightyear into? Or could it have been its own thing? I don't really know the answer, but maybe this is what I would have rathered Elio was? I don't know, I haven't seen Elio yet, but I have done a review by the time this video comes out. Probably. I think there is a good version of this story with Buzz Lightyear in there. I just don't know if the character in this movie was truly Buzz Lightyear. Sure, a version of this movie with Tim Allen swapped in as the voice may have moved this 1 or 2 notches along, but I still don't think it would have been enough to make this great, even if that would have improved the box office. The Zurg thing still would have overshadowed it all. It just sits in this weird place of Pixar history where it's clearly a bold idea for a Toy Story spin-off, but also maybe it was held back that it had to be a Toy Story spin-off, with none of the real artistic aesthetic flourishes for it being a movie canonically made in the 90s. And because it was so indifferent about being a Toy Story spin-off, it ended up just being something that confused the audiences. So much missed potential with the story we preferred at the start, the story we would have rather had at the end, a real Zurg not stolen from the future. Maybe old Buzz could have been worked out, or hey, maybe Zurg would have been the humans all along, becoming more techno-infused and police-stated over time. Or maybe it shouldn't have just been a kids movie version of Interstellar anyway. For now, my name's been Daz. Thank you very much for reaching the end of this video. Do tell me your thoughts on Lightyear. Give me the pitch for how you would rework it into something good. I'd love to hear all of your thoughts and more. Check out our recent review of Pixar's Elio, another spacey sci-fi movie on the side, and I shall see you all in a little bit. Cheerio!